Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today, we're cutting through the wellness noise and getting real about what actually works for women over 40. My guest is a nutritionist and women's health coach who blends science with real life, and we're tackling your biggest questions. Is collagen for women over 40 a game changer for skin, joints, and hormones, or mostly hype? After a year where protein stole the spotlight, what should we really be focused on now? And why is stress management so often the missing link when women do everything right and still don't see results? And how should we think about strength training, HIIT, and walking for true longevity and metabolic health? Today, we're going to have a conversation about what's real and what's fiction with our resident nutritionist, Annie Gaudreault. She's the founder of VEEV Health and Wellness. Annie is a nutritionist and women's health coach. Annie, welcome back to Empowered. So good to have you on again.
Great to be here, Liz.
Okay, let's just jump in. Protein versus fiber. What matters more for fat loss and metabolic health in midlife? Hitting protein targets or prioritizing fiber?
So it's more about protein and fiber. That's really where we want to focus because protein protects your muscles. As we get older, we want to protect that muscle mass at all cost. One of the reasons being that it protects your metabolism, right? So the healthier the muscle mass, the greater the metabolism. We are using more calories. So this is something that we want to protect. Fiber, on the opposite side, it actually is such a friend of ours because it helps protect blood sugar levels. This means better insulin management, which translates into better storage management of fat. So this is also our friend because fiber improves inflammation. This is something that women 40 and over, we really need to manage. So think about protein protecting your engine and fiber keeping the system running smoothly.
Okay, so I want to jump into supplements right now. Are there popular supplements women are taking that actually don't move the needle? And which ones are worth the investment because they're so expensive?
It's crazy how expensive they are. And there's a lot of snake oil people out there taking really, advantage of women's vulnerabilities. So, and the other part of this, Liz, is that supplements are difficult to test from a true efficacy standpoint. But there are a few that are truly stars. Number one, vitamin D. Now, all women should get their vitamin D levels, tested. This is a very simple thing with a blood test. And we can supplement, and it's something that I highly recommend during the winter months for us. Calcium with D or calcium with D and K for those who are susceptible in terms of bone health. So we're looking at osteopenia, osteoporosis, or those who feel that their nutrition is inadequate. Now, one of my favorites, number three, is omega 3. So, omega 3 is a type of fat. And why we're such fans of omega 3 is that it's clearly proven to help with cognitive health. And listen, all women at midlife feel that, the brain is not exactly 10 out of 10. So, omega 3 fats, super good to protect the brain on the long term standpoint. And the last is one that has been getting a lot of press, creatine.
Mhm.
So, creatine is actually one supplement that has been tested and studied for, like, I would say, like 40, 45 years. We have great data now, and this is why I'm so excited about it, is how it helps actually our cognitive health. So, good high dosage of creatine, definitely worth the money. And in this case, creatine is actually quite cheap. So, it makes it a very, very attainable supplement to add to our diet.
So, quick question about creatine. Is it the same for men and women?
In general, yes. So we're looking at levels of 10 to 20 grams per day that will really help from a brain standpoint. That's what research shows. I recommend that women start at 5 grams because one of the side effects of creatine monohydrate is that it can upset some people's stomach. So mix it in, lots of water, start at 5 grams. If everything goes smoothly for 5, 7 days, then you can move up to 10 grams.
Okay, so this is good intel for our brain. When we come back, I want to talk to you about collagen because there's so many different collagen supplements out there. And I know that I take collagen as well, and I want to know whether it's worth it or not. So please don't go away. We'll be right back with more women's health. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's episode, we're discussing midlife, stop guessing, start optimizing. Annie, before we went to break, I was mentioning we're going to talk about collagen. What's the truth about collagen for women over 40? Does it help skin, joints, and hormones, or is it mostly hype?
So this is a great one to cover, Liz, because there's so much misinformation and a lot of hype around collagen. So the body produces own collagen, and over time it diminishes. It gives elasticity to joints. It helps with things like nails, for example. So a lot of women, we want our best foot forward. So we jump at collagen. It has definitely efficacy when it comes to helping with joint pain, when it comes to actually hair and nails, some efficacy. But when it comes to making, turning the clock backwards to make our face and our skin 20 years younger, definitely not. There is very slim evidence that it repairs things like, like all of the wrinkles that we will eventually develop, right? That's where the evidence is really not there at all.
So let me just jump ahead too and ask about biotin because they kind of go hand in hand.
Yes, biotin is a protein, and it can definitely be part of the fabric of healthy tissue. Now, supplementing with biotin, will that make a big difference? For some women, what we see is actually a little bit of helping again with joint health. But from a skin standpoint, I definitely, I am not a fan. I never recommend it. It's also very expensive. So I would rather focus on other methods to help with skin because we can with, skincare and nutrition.
So let's move ahead now to meal timing, sleep timing. How does meal timing and sleep timing influence weight regulation in women at midlife? And should we be fasting?
Oh, yes. So great questions. Let's start, Liz, with sleep. So we know, and I don't think it's going to be any surprises to anyone, that if we don't have a regular sleep routine, if we don't sleep a good amount of hours, right, 7 to 8 hours for 90% of us in society, that it will definitely impact our ability to have better, insulin sensitivity, for example. We are really working really hard in terms of fat storage if we are not taking care of our sleep and regular sleep pattern. And the same goes with meal timing. So, what we know from research is that starting our day with nutrient dense breakfast, and regardless of if it's at 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock, Liz, but with solid amount of protein, we know that there will be healthier health habits during the day. So it really has a nice cascade in terms of what we put in our body. And I always recommend, we want our last meal to be at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime to optimize that digestion and also ensure that we are not really counteracting the effects of digestion. So that's really important as we go forward. Now, should fasting be the answer to this? We are not meant to eat all day long. This is not how the body is designed. But a minimum of 12 hours per day for fasting is definitely recommended, right? So, last meal at 7 o'clock at night, breakfast at 7 a.m., you're definitely, on your way. Some women will benefit from longer fasting because it helps them with calorie management. A lot of us are prone to snacking, for example, in the evening. So being on these, kind of restrictions for some women is very helpful. But for the most of us, 12 hours is plenty.
It's so funny. My intolerances seem to be a saving grace for me. No gluten, no lactose. I can't eat cakes. I can't eat any of that stuff. So the snacking is actually not a big thing for me, but I know that it is for a lot of women. So I feel that I'm fortunate, even though I have these intolerances, because it helps me through the day.
Definitely, absolutely. And the reality is that food is everywhere. It's 3 feet away from our desk. At home, it's right there. There is too much convenience of food, and it's hurting us to a certain degree.
Agreed. So when we come back, I want to talk to you about protein because that was the big word in 2025. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing midlife. Stop guessing, start optimizing. Last year, protein was the big focus. In 2025, what should we look to this year, Annie?
So watch for it. It's fiber. And I'm excited because we know that about 90% of North Americans are deficient in fiber. And it has such an important role, and especially around gut health. And I believe that's one of the reasons why fiber is becoming the star, because gut health is exploding and we're starting to know more and more about the benefits. So very excited about fiber. You're gonna hear all the time the products, the services. Fiber is going to be on the rise, and that's a really good thing.
You know, fiber is very important for all of us, and it's an unknown for a lot. I think we're going to have you come back again, and we'll do an entire show on fiber benefits. 'Cause a lot of people think, I don't need fiber, I'm okay, or I'm going to take too much. But that's an entire different show. So maybe we'll have you back to focus on that the next time around.
Love it. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's move on then. How can women use mindset shifts, not just the macro tracking, to break through stalled weight loss or burnout? Because this is a big one.
Yes, and I think that one of the biggest issues around this mindset is this focus on perfection. This is what I see in my practice all the time, right? It's a all or nothing mindset. So this is where a lot of women sabotage because they go, well, if I cannot give 100%, then I'm just gonna give up. Right? And the reality is that it's consistency that wins the game. It's consistency that gets us to our goals. Now, the other side of this equation is around mindset is the fact that we are so hyper focused on potentially a number, or let's say I want to be a size 10 and that's my goal. And I rather would focus people more on what's the capacity? Are we increasing our muscle mass? Right? Are we actually, getting a better night's sleep, even if it's 1% improvement? Right? These are the types of focus that I think are much more relevant. It's not about shrinking ourselves, but to become stronger and more resilient.
I love that you just said that. So let's move on to stress because everyone is stressed. Women are juggling so much. So, why is stress management often the missing link when women do everything right? As you said, like they put it all in and then they still don't see the results that they want.
Yeah, because that ongoing stress that is not addressed, that is not managed, will cause a ton of inflammation in the body. Inflammation makes weight loss resistance a massive issue. So we really need to pay attention to this because it affects sleep. You don't sleep enough, it's really difficult to lose weight. So there is this chain reaction that happens when we are not dealing with that stress. And it's so many things, Liz, we don't control. We don't control most of the stress out there. And the body does not differentiate financial stress from emotional stress from any. It's one big category. So let's make sure, for women that we give ourselves the time and the resources to help decrease the impact of the stress on our bodies.
And that's so important. Thank you for actually stressing that part for us because it's extremely important. I want to talk about exercise. How should women think about exercise modality, like strength versus hip versus walking for longevity and metabolic health? Because a lot of times you're pushed to lift things that are really, really heavy for you, and you're pushed out of your comfort zone?
Yeah. The first thing here, Liz, is just start. So if a woman is listening to us here tonight, I say make sure that wherever you are, just begin, right? So that's the first thing because movement is going to help you with all of the topics that we've covered today. And of course, protect you from a longevity standpoint. So yes, we care about strength training because we want to, protect that muscle mass that will diminish over time. This is just a normal, factor of life. It happens to men as well, but we also want to protect our bones. This is where we are extremely vulnerable. So strength training protects that. Jumping, anything that has actually an element of bounce is actually really good. This is where something like stress, your bones love the stress. So we want to make sure that we have that.
Okay, hold that thought. We'll be right back and talk more about women and bones. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Midlife, stop guessing, start optimizing with our resident nutritionist, Annie Gaudreault. She's the founder of VEEV Health and Wellness, and Annie is a nutritionist and women's health coach. Okay, Annie, let's continue. What are women are so much more at risk of breaking a bone as they age? What are the top three strategies to protect ourselves?
So definitely that strength training becomes non-negotiable, right? Then the second thing that we also want to look at is actually flexibility and that resilience of the body. That's also very important, right? We need the balance because this is actually how we start protecting the body from falls. So things like, yoga, tai chi, are actually really beneficial to a certain degree as well. Pilates, right? Things that, again, very popular these days. Pilates, I believe, was the number one class of 2025. So that's really exciting to see. We're also looking at a diet that is rich in minerals, not just calcium, right? The bones need calcium, vitamin D, but they also need magnesium, boron, vitamin K. So a really rich diet that includes lots of whole grains as well as leafy greens. We're back to fiber, and that will really also protect the bones. So it's critical. This is not something that is optional because the statistics on osteoporosis are very sobering.
So, how do you personalize nutrition and not just follow the latest trend in a way that respects a woman's unique biology?
Yeah, there are so many tools because if we are not specific, we are guessing. So we want to make sure that we have all the data. So we look at making sure that we get really thorough blood panels, first of all. Then we can also do some great DNA testing that tells us what is the person's predisposition from a genetic standpoint so that we can orient our recommendations. And that we can add, your lifestyle, your environment, and then we can truly customize for you.
So, Annie, let's talk about, I mean, we talk about women, weight gain, not enough sleep, but what's the biggest misconception about menopause and weight gain that's actually holding women back?
I think the biggest thing is the shame that we put on women that it's basically our fault. And the reality is that it's not our fault. Our biology is literally changing. Our brain is literally transitioning and changing. So this is not a lack of willpower. What we have not been given are the tools and the strategies that will support now this new biology. So this is where we need to focus, removing the shame and the blame and moving into empowering women with the right strategies for this time of life.
So important. I'm so glad that you touched upon that because it's so important. Last question, and you touched upon DNA a little bit. How can women use data like DNA diagnostics or biomarkers to finally stop guessing and start progressing? Because it's difficult to keep the weight off.
Yes. So these tests can be really valuable to indicate, basically how we have been programmed, literally, for fat metabolism and cholesterol and a whole slew of of nutritional indicators, right? Even fat metabolism. So the DNA testing is really, really great for that because it's going to be able to give you tools that we can now more specifically orient, women towards. Um, Specific lab works will also help us with that, right? We now also, in some cases, it's not available everywhere and sometimes it's difficult to get, but we can now also have now gut tests, right? Where we actually are able to determine the quality of the microbiome. So that is the next area which I'm excited because I think that we should talk about that when we have our fiber deep dive, because this is the next frontier of health. 100%.
I am so looking forward to the next frontier that you and I are going to discuss. I know it's going to help a lot of women out there. And I really thank you so much for being on the show today. And I look forward to booking you for the Fiber Show.
Thank you, Liz.
Take care. Annie says you don't need to suffer through midlife. You just need the right strategy. When you understand your biology, you stop fighting your body and start working with it. That's where real empowerment begins. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Bye for now.